And so, ladies and gentlemen, with a great deal of pride and pleasure, I present to you Electro, the Westinghouse Moto Man. Electro, come here. And here he comes, ladies and gentlemen, walking up to greet you under his own power.
Today, we are going to investigate what happens when humans create artificial bodies. Why do we do it, and what do they mean? This video is an investigation into the history of the wax figure and the animatronic, placing two distinct stories onto one timeline. If you are new to the channel, please consider liking, commenting, and subscribing for more. Let's jump into it. In Walter Benjamin's landmark essay, The Work of Art in the Age of Mechanical Reproduction, the German philosopher argued that the value of art diminishes when it is mechanically reproduced, for its aura and uniqueness disappeared. Even the most perfect reproduction of a work of art is lacking in one element: its presence in time and space, its unique existence at the place where it happens to be. Applying Benjamin's framework to anthropomorphic puppets, wax figures, and audio-animatronics reveals that these three artworks have a live aura and presence as works of art. However, as mechanical reproductions of human bodies, these figures lack the unique aura of human life and capacity for experience. Since the dawn of the wax figure, humans have attempted to better approximate bodies to cross beyond the uncanny valley. These figures are not reproductions of art as Benjamin described. Instead, they are mechanical reproductions of the human body. People have continued to approximate human movement to make these artificial bodies believable through pneumatic or electronic animation. Because the histories of anthropomorphic wax figures and lifelike animatronics remain separate from each other, the first portion of this thesis draws a continuity from wax figures to animatronics in these two separate histories of technology. These mechanical reproductions of the human body were also labor-saving devices, lessening the need for live performers. This history of animatronics is a unique history of wax figures. How were wax figures even made? The process of making realistic wax figures has little changed over the centuries. The sculptors from a 2021 How It's Made segment used the same process described in an 1889 Scientific American abstract on producing wax celebrity figures. First, the sculptors create or hire a model to mold with plaster. In the best case scenario, their subject is living, willing, and able to be measured precisely. Both 1889's and 2021's processes used photographs of the subject to map their face in 3 dimensions. The case of using clay to create a hollow plastic mold for wax is simple, but the same is not true for the case of the live model. The sculptor places a toothpick between the model's teeth so that they can breathe while being encased in plaster over an inch in thickness. The sculptor removes the mold from the clay or person, pours in melted beeswax to create a hollow shell, removes the excess liquid wax after a shell hardens, and then removes the plaster mold entirely. The sculptor works wax magic to texture and paint the wax human. The eyes are crafted extremely carefully with painted pupils and irises, and simple red strands are used for the blood vessels. Strands of hair are individually set into the wax, melted precisely. These same eye-popping and hair-pulling processes are used with animatronics. This wax process dates back to the ancient Mediterranean, but early modern Europe saw a takeoff for wax as a literary device, art form, and scientific tool. English dramatist John Webster used wax figures as a plot device in 1613's The Duchess of Malfi. The titular duchess is tricked at the sight of wax figures into thinking her family was dead. This use of wax effigies in literary plot demonstrates English familiarity with wax figures in the 17th century. Wax sculptures commonly made death masks and effigies. They also acted as molds for bronze casting. wax figures became body doubles for researchers and students of anatomy during the 18th century. Wax figures were variably useful in arts, sciences, and culture. The same must be said for audio-animatronics and the animation of wax figures. While not made of wax, these robots similarly embody their subject. There is an extensive early modern history of robotic performers as art. Clockworkers crafted early automata in the 14th century at European cathedrals. 2 centuries later, in 1509, Leonardo da Vinci designed and constructed a mechanical lion that could walk. The Jacques Droz family were famous watchmakers and automata craftspeople in the late 18th century France. They created 3 figures: the musician, the draughtsman, and the scribe. The scribe was capable of inking a quill tip and writing a reprogrammable message up to 40 characters long on a sheet of paper. The scribe famously invoked Descartes, writing, "I think, therefore I am." The Jacques Droz family was able to give motion and animation to a thoughtless figure, another step in humanizing wax figures. Not all artificial performers were made to be human. Instead, the robots came. In the 20th century, Westinghouse Electric Corporation's Electro, the Moto Man, and his dog Sparky were 2 of the most popular early animatronic performers. They put on regular performances at the 1939 World's Fair in New York City. Electro responded to voice commands through a telephone, cracked jokes, lit up, and even smoked cigarettes. Electro's movements were incredibly simple by today's standards, but he nevertheless captivated audiences as an engaging and entertaining performer. If you've made it this far, please consider subscribing. The English word robot is derived from the Czech word roboto, translated as serf, slave, or forced to labor. Karl Čapek in 1921 popularized the word robot in his play R.U.R., or Rossum's Universal Robots. The play about robots replacing humans was an allegory of the Bolshevik revolutions in 1917. The robots represented the masses of workers as they revolted against their creators. While also a symbol, robots fundamentally are labor-saving devices. Their job is to labor. In the case of theme park animatronics, their job is to perform and entertain. Unlike workers, it remains unlikely for robots to revolt and strike for better working conditions. Robots, the mechanical slave, are mechanical reproducers of human labor. Robotic performers in animatronics replace the labor of performance, able to replicate precise motion for thousands of shows in a row. The Walt Disney Company became incredibly interested in robotic animation technology following Disneyland's debut in 1955. After redefining 2-dimensional animation, Disney's major goal with developing animatronic technology was to invent a 3-dimensional form of animation. According to the corporate history of the Walt Disney Company, their first attempt at robotic theater included an automaton model of American actor Buddy Ebsen. Engineers developed this miniature mechanical dancing man in the 1950s, programmed by paper that resembles an automatic piano roll. The Walt Disney Company and Walt Disney himself put this animated figure on hiatus because of the overly complex electronics that predated computers and transistors. The mechanics of this miniature automaton were comparatively massive, and engineers abandoned this project due to its complexity. The Buddy Ebsen dancing man, while not entirely successful, mechanically reproduced the human action of dancing. Animatronics became more fluid and lifelike with every technological development over time, getting closer to humanization. 1964 was the most important year for animatronics in the public eye because the World's Fair in New York City featured multiple iconic attractions created by WED Enterprises. As talking birds debuted at Disneyland's Enchanted Tiki Room on the West Coast, great moments with Mr. Lincoln, It's a Small World, the Carousel of Progress, and Ford's Magic Skyway debuted for East Coast and international audiences. The technological developments that executed the shows at the 1964 New York World's Fair were rapid and made public all at once. The most important technological developments in this era was in programming. Disney's proprietary show control unit, the digital animation control system, allowed for motion tracking from a harness that an actor and programmer would wear. As a 1976 reviewer of Disney's America Sings attraction noted, "Such an approach of acting is entirely synthetic, and a performance is constructed instant by instant rather than responding to an actor's internal impulses." Later on, control boards began to more precisely control animatronic movements, replacing hand grips with individual finger controls. The anthropomorphic audio-animatronic is not just a mechanical reproduction of the human body, but it also mechanically reproduces human motion and animation. In attempting to approximate the human body, recreating human skin was a major obstacle. Materials engineers at the Walt Disney Company, and by extension other animatronic manufacturing firms, had to overcome the great challenge of replicating human skin that was both functional and believable. Vinyl skin envelops a fiberglass skeleton, taking on stage makeup so audience members at any distance can read the figure's features. Latex substances began to replace vinyl because the material has memory and elasticity. Disney research scientists at the 1996 American Chemical Society meeting in Orlando discussed the difficulties of creating and maintaining these polymers. Any material, no matter how tough, is bound to fail after many repetitions of a movement. Therefore, the polymer must also be easier to repair. The real cost isn't the injection or the molding process. It's in the labor required after the figure has been cast. Durability and flexibility are paramount for keeping a robotic performer of any species alive. Engineers do not want mechanical pirates and Abraham Lincoln to crack at the lips and tear at the skin. So, these animatronics require a large amount of upkeep. Unlike the human body, the animatronic body cannot heal itself. Rather, it is up to the engineers to take care of animatronics through malfunctions that destroyed believability and crawled deeper into the uncanny valley. In the recent past, animatronics have begun to use artificial intelligence in order to become interactive. In 2007, an American inventor named Gene P. Hamilton filed a patent for an AI that models human physical behavior and actions. This AI is trained using an input that matches the persona of a historical figure in order to both educate and entertain. The patent states, "It would be even more spectacular and enlightening to be able to ask questions of Mr. Lincoln, both about his own era and his thoughts and impressions of our time and civilization. To be able to converse with President Lincoln in real time would indeed be a unique experience for anyone." Other historical figures mentioned in this patent are limited to Plato, Martin Luther, Sir Isaac Newton, Andrew Carnegie, Abraham Lincoln, Mahatma Gandhi, and Sir Winston Churchill. Each historical figure's AI would be programmed using various overlapping brain parameters that match human characteristics and behavioral patterns. Before AI, engineers humanized robots by giving them precise commands and exact electrical inputs. In the future, these robots will be humanized not only by their movements and behaviors, but also their decisions to behave the way they choose. In conclusion, the creation of artificial bodies, whether in the form of wax figures or animatronics, represents a fascinating intersection of art, science, and technology. These lifelike replicas have a live aura and presence as works of art, but they lack the unique aura of human life and the capacity for experience. I'm Historical Method Man. Please like, comment, and subscribe for more coming up.